Did Kawhi's move to L.A. kill the LeBron era?
No, it didn't. You got me on the ropes. I ain't gonna lie. Well stated. Got me.
He got us all in standing 8 count.
right. Everybody buzzing. But I will say this. He didn't kill LeBron in this era of dominance for him, but he's forcing LeBron to fight right now. And this is the first time we've seen LeBron really have to fight. We try to pit him against Kobe. They never matched up in the playoffs together, so it didn't work. Now LeBron is somebody who's formidable right there in your building. And is trying to take the landlord, trying to take the tenant, trying to get that signature on the paper saying, we run L.A. So it's interesting, this energy about this rivalry is really placed on LeBron. He's the commonality. He's the common denominator. Think about it. We're excited as Clippers. We're excited as the NBA because we see parity. We see dynamic duos all across the league. But let's stay in Staples Center. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, both of those guys have one thing in common. They both looked at the Lakers at once upon a time and said, hell no, ain't playing for y'all. And then looked like LeBron said, hell no to you too.
Yeah.
I ain't playing for y'all. And found their way to Clipper land. That's about LeBron. And as anybody knows who's watched the fight, it ain't about your first hit. It's about when you get hit, when they get a chance to respond. We'll see what LeBron does in response.
Well, 3 things. One, I'm glad you cleaned it up at the end about the tiny bit, because it's a huge disparity about the looks here, okay? Huge disparity.
Wow,
don't
that's what your mom said.
I know, but that's what your girl said. Why you bring my mother into it, man? My mom, now we doing mama jokes now? Hey, listen, let me circle back around, because the girl that came to the table didn't say that. But anyway.
Yeah.
Second, it's hard to say rivalry as in Magic and Bird, because theirs was so organic starting in college, and then the championship runs during the 80s. It made it so intense. The teams fueled the rivalry a lot more, and the love-hate between the two took it to an all-time level. So I don't know if we'll get there with LeBron and Kawhi, but I do believe it adds so much more intrigue into what we're doing as far as watching basketball. And the third part of this is, will Kawhi dethrone him? Probably, but it's all timing. You got to think about it. LeBron is on the back end of his career at 16 years.
Right.
Kawhi is only 28 years old. If we go back to 2014, when LeBron was at the peak, in that 14 finals, my man averaged about 28 points a game.
Right. But Kawhi got the MVP.
I know he got the MVP, but what I'm saying, when you go back and forth,
I hear you.
You know, in time, it's a little bit different. But I love this fact of this, and you said this. Both wanted to play for the Lakers, even Paul George and Kawhi, at one point.
Right.
They wanted to. So is the X factor, like you talked about, is it LeBron?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Because the Laker franchise is still there. But kudos for them for saying, you know what? That's the big dog. Okay, we want to go through him. We don't want to go around him. We don't want to play with him. And I think it just adds so much more intrigue going into the season by those two joining together.
First off, let me say this. The only reason we're having this conversation is because KD hurt. Okay, we talking about the throne and best in the league. KD hurt. So this is why Kawhi and LeBron are the only two in this conversation. Second.
Hold for 1 second. That's an interesting point that I disagree with.
Okay.
If KD were healthy and Kyrie in Brooklyn, they were healthy, you still talking about right here in the city that matters the most, L.A., Kawhi Leonard, Paul George versus LeBron James, Anthony Davis.
Know what I'm saying? If the season don't end like KD did, hurt, if he play and they win the championship, we having a whole different conversation.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
But I respect Kawhi's move because, and LeBron is really the worried one because he's the one that's about to get dethroned. Kawhi's not on the throne. LeBron is on the throne in L.A. He's still a king in L.A. LeBron is coming to Kawhi's coming to his city to try to change the things for the Clippers and to get on the throne. So I feel like LeBron is worried because now you got two guys on another team in your same building, one fresh off a championship. Like I said, one that had an opportunity to go here to come to the Lakers and didn't come. He's regretting that. That's why he was cool with this trade. Paul George regretted not signing with the Clippers and going to OKC for that year. He regretted because now look, they traded him. Now he's here. Now he make it like he wasn't loyal to Russ. Now he make it like he stabbed Russ in the back. So everything is backfiring on him. LeBron has to worry about these two guys because they both have a lot to prove. along with a great owner. I love the owner for the Clippers. I think he's going to do everything to give these guys all the ammunition they need to be successful. But LeBron, you definitely have to be worried.
Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's pick a winner. We have a fight, and it may be inadvertent. I don't think right now there's animosity. These guys probably like each other, but sometimes the matchup just says you got to fight each other. You're in the same building. I think Kawhi's going to win this fight. I think he may win it by the trade deadline. He's certainly going to win it by the postseason. LeBron's going down. This is Holmes versus Ali.
So we're talking about fight regular season or a team winning the championship and another team not winning the championship?
I think both. I think there's a regular season fight, and I think there's going to be a postseason end-all to be-all, and I think Kawhi wins them both.
Well,
I can't give them to both. I can't give them both.
I give them both. I would say this. Look, the Clippers was a deep team, had the best bench, maybe in history. We talk about Montrez and Lou Williams combined, 36 points? That's the most in NBA history off the bench. So we're talking about an all-time bench, and all they needed was a cherry on top, and they got two. And so that's one. But let's talk about what Jimmy is talking about, because this is going to be more than the objective analysis, who wins the championship. It's going to be how you got there.
Right.
And it's going to be how that rivalry felt. And this is why I think this is going to be a big rivalry in terms of duos in NBA history. When you talk about Magic and Bird and how it was organic from college to the pros, the teams, the racial aspects, you talk about this one, this is the biggest brand in the sport versus the worst brand in the sport. You got the best player versus the best two-way player. You got one of them residing where the other two wanted to play. But because you there, I don't want to be there. I want to go beat it up. That's why I think this is going to have the ingredients necessary for us to say this is an all-time rivalry. Who's going to win in the end? I really think it's the Clippers. Strip away my fandom because they had the deeper team. Let's go back before all the acquisitions. What were we saying? If that Clippers team gets something, they are it. What were we saying about the Lakers? They need a lot. What are we saying about the Lakers now? They still need something. They still need something.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be the Clippers.
Let's pull back just a little bit because I think it's very important. What made the Boston Lakers rivalry so tough is they met in the finals. Okay? They met in the finals. Unfortunately, we're not going to see that. So, but what we will be able to see is if they can meet in the Western Conference Finals for the next 3 to 4 years.
All home games.
Okay, you see what I'm saying?
All home games.
Now that narrative takes on, I think, a storyline of its own because these two teams, these particular players, are fighting to get to the championship. Who can contend? Who can keep one out of that race? It's going to be very important to how, I think at the end of the day, the storyline changes. Now, for the Lakers, I want to say this. The Clippers are built right now a lot better for the short term and long term than the Lakers.
Yes, sir.
The Lakers still have some moves to make. Yeah. Let's see what happens during the course of the season, what additions that the Lakers make to try to contend with what we have over here at the Clippers. Because I still think we're a long way away from that aspect of where we're going. But the makings from an NBA perspective and living in L.A., think about it. Every game you go to. Woo. You got the Clippers over here playing with two great superstars. You got the Lakers over here. You can't lose if you're a basketball fan in the NBA, more importantly, if you live here in L.A.
And you got to think about it, too. You got, when they do play, you got the top two-way players in the game. Kawhi and Paul on one team.
Yes.
And you got AD on the other side. But then look at this, the Clippers. They can have the best backcourt defense ever. Patrick Beverly, Paul George,
and Kawhi.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Ron Harper.
That's scary.
Ron Harper, Scottie Pippen, and Michael Jordan might be the only thing that could compare to it.
Right.
But look, I'm going to say this, and you're in L.A., born and bred. You've lived out here in L.A. long enough. But I really believe, and again, this won't be written for 10 or 15 years, but I think this is going to be a fight for the soul of Los Angeles.
Yes.
And I know this is a Lakers town. It's always going to be a Lakers town. No. The richest man in sports runs the Clippers. And he's not here. He's here to conquer. Yeah. That's what he does. Yeah. And to topple. And so Julius Caesars is sitting over there, LeBron and the Lakers, and his little LeBron small council is Jeannie Buss, Rob Pelinka, Linda Rambis, and Kurt Rambis versus this new up-and-coming guy that wants the throne. I'm Jerry West, Lawrence Frank, Doc Rivers, and Steve Ballmer. These guys the Lakers are going down big time, and it could be historic. We could be sitting here 15 years from now man, you know when everything changed is when Kawhi came here with Paul George, and now it's a Clippers town.
Man, let me add a little to that. That's amazing. You up here preaching the gospel, damn it.
But you don't get offered $900 and pay $2 billion and not want to win.
And not want to win.
Oh, he want to win.
Oh,
he's coming to conquer.
Oh, he's coming to conquer. Look, let's talk about this owner. This is an owner, I think he was 11th into Microsoft, and he has $44 billion. Rest in peace to Paul Allen, who was 2 into Microsoft. A lot of those guys sold their stock. They wasn't going to weather the storm. Hey, remember Apple came back.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And he outlasted those who were there first. This is a guy who will not only conquer, but persevere. Just about him. That's why he has these riches. He stayed the course. 2, this is the first time I'm born and bred, L.A., that there is a real rivalry in Staples. This is the first time there's a real rivalry in basketball. The Clippers have never been great when the Lakers were great. The Lakers have been great much longer than the Clippers. This is the first time we got a real balance of power, in least perception. And last but not least, Christmas Day. I'm going to apologize to my family and my little man right now. But when the Clippers play the Lakers, ain't no presents getting open.
You
that
should have
morning.
free season tickets, man.
They should give you some.
They should give you season. Hey, y'all need to give him season tickets. Must he been fighting for y'all through the ups and the downs?
I don't even need
Look out
it.
for my man.
This is going to be the first time I tailgate a basketball game.
Oh,
You know, I tailgate a basketball game.
How about this?
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. And be sure to check out more of the best clips from Speak For Yourself, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.